Hello, today's topic is the 5 signs to tell whether you are mature or not. The first one is a hallmark of being mature or not, which is are you able or unable to tolerate mixed feelings at the same time? So what does it mean? Let's say a little girl, 4 years old, Sarah, wanted to have ice cream but was refused by her mom. Then she screamed and threw a tantrum and yelled at her mom, "I hate you." Now here's a 40-year-old wife, and she was frustrated by her husband, and then she yelled at her husband, "I don't love you." So we can see in both cases, both of them are not aware of their two mixed feelings at the same time happening to them, which is the first one is frustration and the second one is affection. Of course, when the time they're not frustrated and they show a lot of affection toward their children and husbands. So the two feelings fail to mix. As a result, the reactions are strident, harsh. But in this case, the little girl's reaction is acceptable, or it's not a big problem because she is only 4 years old. However, for the wife, 40 years old, that's a big problem. That's not emotionally mature, because as we grow through the teenage years, even after that, our brain started to develop this ability to be able to hold mixed feelings, thoughts, impulses, and still be able to think clearly. But that not always happen. Then when we mature, the attribution of childishness like egotism and egocentrism or impulsiveness will fade. Then we start to mature. That's why when we face work, sometimes we don't feel like working. So we have this aversion to work. However, on the other hand, we think we have this commitment to our future. And that's why those two feelings mixed up together, and we can deal with it still maturely. We can still keep working. And why some people couldn't develop this mature personality after the teenage years. So in order for someone to mature, this person has to realize that he or she is independent, is unique, is different from the parents. For that to happen, first they have to feel safe. They have to feel that there is a unity between him or her with the parents. So when the person feels safe, then he or she can branch out to explore, to develop him or herself. That's why this sense of belonging is so critical. We see some like teenagers or young boys join the gang. Sometimes are not because they're bad boys. That's because they're seeking a sense of belonging. Now, when we can realize that we have two mixed emotions, then we're in charge. We can decide. So I'm not my feelings, my emotion. I can take behaviors or take my actions against how I feel. I have power over my feelings. The second is that if someone expects different consequences while repeating the same unproductive behavior again, then hoping that each time the result will be different, that's not mature. This magic thinking keeps us from learning how to get what we want by changing our behaviors. For example, there is a corner store on the right of my house, 300 meters away. Every time when I want to get something, I just walk 300 meters that way. However, there is a big supermarket on my right, probably 10 miles away. I needed to either take a bus or drive there. So if I say I wanted to go to the big supermarket, well, I take the same route. I turn right from my house, walking 300 meters, probably you'll be laughing at me. Are you crazy? If you take the same route and you're going to reach the same destination, get the same result. Well, know that. However, in reality, how many people, for example, how many wives, and knowing that their husbands are unwillingly to stop, let's say, gambling, or unable to do that, or whatever, and they're still hoping that the situation will improve. So this cause and effect like this lacking cause and effect mindset is, how does it develop? We have to go back to the childhood, because this is how we learn as children. Our behavior will produce certain consequences. We have to learn to be responsible for the consequences our behavior produces. But if a child is spoiled and he or she can just break the grandpa's glasses, punch the little sister, and there is no consequences to deal with, then they missed the chance to learn. On the other hand, sometimes parents gave out punishment not based on the behavior of the children, instead based on the parents' mood. For example, if I'm in a very bad mood, I'm mad, and then I can smack my daughter's cell phone because it's after 10 o'clock. However, when I'm in a good mood, she can just play on her cell phone until after 12 o'clock. So this confuses this child. So the child couldn't link her behavior with the consequences. That's how some parents fail to help their children to mature. So when children are taught that they have to be responsible for their behavior, and then this person starts to mature. The third sign is that for a mature person, I know in order for me to feel better, I have to think better and act better first. But for immature people, they want to feel better first. I can only think better or act better after I feel better. So, and also the immature people believe that their bad feelings, their bad mood will justify their bad behaviors. So when I'm angry, I can yell, I can throw things, I can destroy things because I feel bad. As a result, what I feel dictates what I do. My emotions run my behavior. For example, after I get divorced with my husband, I feel terrible. I really cannot deal with this emotion. I want to get him back. So it's my emotion wants this thing to happen. It's not after I did some clear thinking. So after we get back, all the old problems started to repeat themselves again. This reminds me why we divorced in the first place. So people cannot figure out why I couldn't be successfully solving this problem. That's because the emotions is running the course. In dysfunctional families, parents teach their children good feelings and bad feelings. Good feelings are the feelings they approve of, happiness and contentment, and bad feelings are the ones the parents are uncomfortable of. So the children learned to judge their feelings and to judge themselves for having bad feelings. But in reality, there are only pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. They're both very critical for our successful living because the unpleasant feelings are a body or our mind signaling us there's something needed to be fixed. There's something wrong with your emotion. So we needed to turn around, look at ourselves, just like when we have pain in our body, which is the signal our bodies telling us, oh, you might get injured, or you might have disease in yourself. So dealing with emotions is a very important way to learn how to live a better life. I'm going to make another video about how to dealing with our emotions. The first one is that, does this person say or think a lot in the mind? I should or I shouldn't. I ought. I should lend money to this friend. I should help this. I should take care of my children in a certain way. If it's a yes, it indicates the individual always thinks he or she falls short of the mark, always make wrong choices. And when anything doesn't happen the way they want, they always automatically think it's their own fault. Basically, their self-image is at risk. They think themselves as an inferior man or woman. As children, we instinctually assume responsibility for certain deprivations we experience. We don't understand. For example, if my mother loves my brother more than me, I would think that's because I'm not as lovable as my brother. That's because I'm not smart enough, I'm not sweet enough. It's my fault. I couldn't figure out that this is because of my mother's inability to love. It's not my problem. So if the adult parents can comfort their children, tell them that it's not your responsibility for you to miss or for you to be deprived of whatever you have been. So the children can realize, oh, it's not my fault. However, some parents are doing the opposite. They're telling their children, you know what? You kids are driving me crazy. If not for you, I wouldn't have stayed with your father or with your mother. Or if not for you, I would have been to college, I would have had a successful career. So basically, they're telling their children, you are responsible for my mental health, for the quality of my marriage, for the failure in my life. Children don't realize how inappropriate it is. So this is so they take extra responsibility for themselves. That's why we mixed up responsibilities in our adult life. The fifth one is that if someone say or think a lot, I can't, I couldn't, I have to, which demonstrates a self-image of a being who has no power of choice, whose behavior is totally directed by external forces beyond one's control. Those people don't see themselves as the source of the problem. They see that the world has a problem. The world needs to change. So this makes this person lose this opportunity to do some self-examination, because without examining ourselves, without our self-changing or growth, we cannot make life better. We cannot make ourselves better. We cannot get what we want. So those people cannot realize that we have the power by getting what we want by changing our thoughts and behaviors. In a sense, all children have this instinctual tendency to deny responsibilities. So when there are fights breaking out between siblings or problems, we always blame the other one. We say that it's them, they initiate this fight. We don't want to be the culprit. But healthy and mature parents will confront us, make us not to try to avoid or deny our responsibility. Try not to run away from the consequences caused by our behavior. And in order to do that, the parents have to be willing and have to be observant. So that takes time. Some parents, instead of helping their children to do this, they complain about life. For example, they lack responsibilities. For all the problems in their lives, they blame their spouses, their kids, their bosses, employers, the government, the system, sexism, or racism. Anyway, they have no responsibility for anything. In this way, all the problems will persist, and also they set up as a role model of irresponsibility for their children. So why we do that? Why we try to stay away from responsibility? Because by casting responsibility, life is easier. If I'm responsible for anything, I have to take action. I have to do something. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty, right? So if I don't think I'm responsible for anything, then life is easy. But there is a bigger consequences that we fail take responsibility in real life. Then there will be consequences we have due in life. I point out a lot of reasons why we have these factors that make us immature. Like nobody is 100% mature. We will have this or that kind of problems. I don't want people to feel guilty or even have more self-hate toward self. I want people to understand there are situations there. This is how we grew up. It's beyond our control. So only we can totally understand how does it happen, we can have compassion for ourselves. And then we can shift the energy from feeling guilty or feeling self-hate toward improving ourselves. People can change. And also, on the other hand, our parents are trapped in their inner conflicts. They cannot help harming us. So, but in a way, but here's what I want to say. We can break the cycle. So we have the power to starting from ourselves, to change, to improve, to grow from ourselves. So now I wanted to repeat those 5 signs. The first is be able to aware of mixed feelings. The second is can understand that in order to get different consequences or results, we have to change our behavior. The third is that we cannot let our feelings direct our lives. We have to think better and act better in order to feel better. And the fourth is that we shouldn't assume responsibility of those are not ours. And the fifth is that we have to take responsibility for ourselves. But those two are very hard to tell sometimes. So that's why human growth is a lifelong journey. As long as you can realize that we're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions, we're not our behaviors, we're the one think, feel our emotions, and take actions. So we have a power to decide what to do, to make choices. I have to give credits for the contents from the books I read. Those 3 books. Getting Love Right, Hold On to Your Kids, The Road Less Traveled, and Getting Love Right. I'm going to put the links for those 3 books underneath the video. If you want to watch the Chinese version of this video, want to learn Mandarin, you can click the link. I'll add the link later. And thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.